All right, we are going to be talking about how to find the rule for functions using a table. So your homework for Monday night was page 18 and 19. I'm going to be doing my examples on the back of page 18 right now. So you're going to be given a table like this. Remember, X, that's your input, and Y is your output. And then you're going to have a list of numbers that go along with that. So let's say we have 5 and 8, 9 and 12, and then we'll do 10 and 13. Okay, your job is to find the relationship between X and Y. Okay, so remember that we put X into the machine. So here's our function machine. You put X into the machine, something happens inside of there, and then we get out Y. So we want to find out what's happening inside the function machine, okay? It can be really easy to get confused and try to find the difference between the x's. So like, oh, 5 to 9, that's +4, and 9 to 10, that's +1. But we do not want to find the difference between all the x's or all the y's. We always want to find the difference between x going to y. Okay, so we want to figure out how to go from 5 to 8, 9 to 12, and 10 to 13. Now this one's a pretty easy one. You might have already figured out the pattern, but I'm just going to write down a list of steps to help you because when they get harder, you'll want to follow these steps. So the first step that you want to look at is as you go from x to y, so 5 to 8, 9 to 12, 10 to 13, is your number getting bigger or smaller? So if we're going 5 to 8, our number's getting bigger. Now, there's 4 different operations that we use in math. We use addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And 2 of those operations make numbers bigger. So the 2 operations that make numbers bigger are addition and multiplication. And then the 2 operations that make numbers smaller are subtraction and division. So from this example right here, we can see that our number is getting bigger. Okay, so I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. Our number's getting bigger, which means that we're going to try addition and multiplication for our rules. Okay, now you always want to try either addition or subtraction first. Okay, if your number's getting bigger, I want you to try addition first. If your number's getting smaller, then I want you to try subtraction first because it's easier to check for addition and subtraction first instead of checking for multiplication and division. Okay, if that doesn't work, then step number 3, you're going to try multiplication or division. Okay, so let's look at this one. We found out step number 1, our answer is getting bigger. So it's going to be addition or multiplication. And we want to try addition first. So how would we go from 5 to 8? Well, that's easy. We add 3. Now that may not be our answer, so we need to check the other numbers first to make sure that those numbers are correct too. So 5 plus 3 is 8, that works. 9 plus 3 is 12, so that's going to be okay. And 10 plus 3 is 13. So if all the numbers match up and they're working okay, then I would say you're good to go. That's your function. And remember, when we write our functions out, you're going to write y equals x plus 3. If we're just adding 3, because we put x in, so x goes into the machine, we add 3, and then we get y out on the other side. If it makes more sense to you, you can write your equation like this, x plus 3 equals y, so that you can see it starts with an x going in the machine, and then we add 3, and then y comes out on the other side. So either way is fine. We're going to do just one more example that's a little bit harder. So remember, x is our input, y is our output. we are going from x to y. And give me 1 second while I think of an example. Okay. So 16, when it gets put in the machine, it turns into 9. When 10 gets put into the machine, it's going to turn into 6. And if we put a smaller number in, 4, it's going to turn into 3. Okay, so let's follow our steps and figure out what the rule is. Step number 1, is it getting bigger or smaller? When we go from x to y, our numbers are getting smaller. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. The numbers are getting smaller. So that means we're either going to be subtracting or dividing. Step number 2 says try subtraction first. So let's try subtraction. 16 minus what is 9? Well, 16 minus 7 is 9. Okay, so 16 minus 7 is 9. Let's try 10 minus 7. Is 10 minus 7 6? No, that doesn't work out. And 4 minus 7 isn't 3. So I'm going to write down that we tried x minus 7, and then I'm going to cross it off. That didn't work. So if subtraction doesn't work, we're going to move on to step 3. We're going to try division. Okay, so 16 divided by something is supposed to equal 9. Can 16 divided by anything equal 9? Well, yes, but we want to use whole numbers. And 16 divided by 1 is 16, so that's not it. 16 divided by 2 is 8, so that's not going to work. 16 divided by 3, that's going to give us a decimal. All right, so it doesn't look like division is going to work with a whole number. However, sometimes you're going to require 2 steps to get to your answer. So if it doesn't work out perfectly, that's okay. It just means we're going to have to add another step in there. So we still want to stick with division. We're still okay with division. We want to stick with that. But we just need to find 16 divided by what gets close to 9. Okay, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to give us exactly 9, but we want to get something close to 9. Well, I just said that 16 divided by 2 was 8, and 8 is pretty close to 9. So let's try that. 16 divided by 2, and that's going to give us 8. So in order to get to 9, we just need to add 1 at the end. Okay, so far we have a pattern. We took our x and we divided by 2, and then we had to add 1. Now let's check and see if that works for our other numbers. So 10, we plug it in for x. 10 divided by 2 is 5, plus 1 is 6. Hey, that works. Okay, and what about 4 divided by 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So there you have found your pattern. Okay, so remember, if it doesn't always work out exactly correct the first time that you try multiplication or division, just try to get close to the number that you want, and then you may have to add or subtract a few numbers to get closer. Once you have what you think the pattern is, make sure that you check with your other numbers to make sure that it's right, because every number has to follow the same pattern.